And we're live! So, welcome to my newest live stream. For now, it's just me. Yeah, just me. So, I'm hoping that others join, but because I'm currently the only one who's on the live stream right now, this may be a shorter live stream, so I hope that I can get more people on here. So, what am I doing in this live stream right now? Well, so recent events have happened earlier this week, and not all of them were positive. This revolves around a specific fellow member of the left-wing community on Twitter. And that is, unfortunately, someone I've once been close to. This is concerning e pluribus unum. Now, this is going to be a disclaimer. Now, I wanted to keep the whole thing sort of anonymous, but because he responded to my tweets, all bets are off at this point. Though there is one disclaimer I will give to you, and that is this. Do not harass e pluribus unum or any of his fans under any circumstances. It is not okay, regardless of who you're doing against or what your motivation is. Regardless of motivations, it is wrong to harass, dox, or anything crazy like towards the guy. It's not right. So, gotta get that out of the way first. So this is specifically me addressing my drama. I don't want to further invigorate any sort of drama between he and him, unless like maybe he does another video about me, like he brings back his thoughts on series, despite promising to previously like end it. But yeah, true. And also to respect his wishes, I will not reveal his first name or the nickname I called him. So enough stalling. Why am I actually talking about him? And just know that following this video, he'll probably be in. You can basically consider him in the vault. Just for specific. So I will present to you what happened. Note that I was unable to do screenshots. So if you're wondering why there's no screenshots, I was kicked before I could show from his Discord before I could show you the screenshots on what happened. Spoiler alert. No stalling. We're getting out of myself. Here it is. So you can see here. I left a Discord for defending my statements on how banning any website is bad. So specifically, it was specifically about TikTok, a TikTok ban. Someone sort of reinvigorated the debate. Someone who seemed to support a TikTok ban for some reason or something. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Or point out the coalition. And I was against banning any website. And so I'll just go over what it was. I don't apologize for saying that banning any website is just wrong on so many levels, regardless of what it's about. And also finding people for using VPNs for accessing banned websites is also wrong. And also, I think it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, which is, I think, a right to privacy. I'll have to double check that later, but yeah. What I do know is that it is a violation of a certain section of the Bill of Rights. I know as a leftist, I'm talking a bit about the Constitution, but yeah, that's kind of unfortunately what I'm having to go towards. And I escalated it by calling him a certain nickname, which again will not discuss what his full name is, nor the nickname I called him, because out of respect for his wishes, because I think he may review it later, I do respect his wishes to keep his name private. Like his real name, not like his username. That one's public, even though it's the national motto. But anyways. Also, there are multiple sides to every story, so if he can show you his side, I can show you my side, just so it. And also, I did keep him anonymous again because I didn't want anyone to harass him, but then suddenly he responded. So I'm gonna read it, and I'll sort of respond to his response. First of all, technically, you were kicked. I expressed my intentions like I wanted to get out. I told him, hey, that's it. I'm leaving. And so he just I was figuring out ways to leave. I think you're supposed to click some sort of an icon button to leave a Discord. But I didn't have time to do that, so he just decided to kick me out for me, I guess. I don't know. It refused to engage. Well, I mean, you said that when talking about Soviet leaders, so. And yeah, I mean, I can see why someone would consider Stalin the worst because it's just horrible. But anyways, I did go a little far in that statement, but that was not my whole argument. The entire crux of my argument was that banning websites is authoritarian. Maybe I phrased it wrong, sure, but I didn't. But what I meant was banning websites is authoritarian and makes us look no better than actual dictatorships like Russia and China. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to that. Yes, I know I'm in favor of some form of censorship. I mean, I do think websites should be regulated, but banning websites, regardless of how sketchy they are, is like, really? We should just outright ban them instead of making efforts to put regulations on social media websites for posting either political content that propagates one side or something, or I don't know, utilizes data in very illegal ways, like personal data specifically. Like, yeah, I think those are legitimate concerns, but banning them is just not the way you should respond to it. I was trying to engage with you, EBU, and you just kept arguing, and I just said, hey, if you keep arguing with me, I'm ending the conversation. Again, don't ask me those. You were just asking me, who do you believe? I already answered that question. Don't answer me the same question, okay? It gets really frustrating to me when you do that, and that's technically considered spamming, and you shouldn't do that. So I can make exceptions through spamming, and for that reason, you were not engaging with me, and you were not really meeting me at my level. I mean, yeah, I think we're technically the same age, but still, you're not meeting me at my level. This isn't about what's right and wrong. This is about basic human decency. Okay? And I know this is a whole thing, but I'm done fooling around with you, okay? I'm not friends with you, dude. I don't know if I was ever truly a friend of his, considering the whole parasocial relationships with fellow YouTubers is actually a really bad thing, considering there might be a power imbalance between the two. It's absolutely still, it has been absolute. You've been frustrating me for too long, and honestly, like, I mean, yeah, it was a short conversation, but I was like, this is going nowhere. I'm done. So you weren't helping the situation either. I admit I was going a bit too far. I do apologize for that. But you, dude, you've gone a little too far as well. And when I left, you basically like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Like, in such a really rude way of saying that. I mean, I get being blunt in certain aspects is an okay thing, and I admit, again, maybe I was too blunt. But he too was too blunt on that front. And so he should admit to that. And it's kind of hypocritical of him to feel that way. And if you're not in favor of a TikTok ban, why are you going to argue with me about banning websites? Just saying. Just, if you're in favor of a TikTok ban, if you're against a TikTok ban, please don't argue with me about it. Okay? Why bother arguing with me if you agree with me TikTok shouldn't be banned? Just saying. I mean, you can believe who you want to believe. You can choose to believe him. You can choose to believe me. I'm not trying to stoke an argument between the two of us again. I'm just saying his side of the argument is flawed, just as mine probably was. And again, there's two sides to a different story. And it's best that you look at the evidence first before jumping to conclusions like that. And I think it would be better if you just stopped asking those questions like, okay, fine, you're entitled to your own opinion. I'm not fully right on everything. You're not right on fully everything either. Like, the thing is, as someone who has worked in politics before, I've had to interact with people who are nearly opposite of my own political beliefs before. And I've actually met someone at a certain meeting when I was on the campaign trail for this one office, specifically for, what was it? City charter. Basically, if you don't know what a city charter is, it's basically a city's constitution. And I've actually met I think he's a centrist Republican, centrist Republican mayor of St. John's. And, you know, he and I had differing political beliefs, and we definitely did disagree on quite a bit, but we were respectful about each other's beliefs. And I relented on a few things, he relented on others. Maybe we don't agree on a TikTok ban at all. I don't know. But I hope that he at least is respectful of my opinions, why banning TikTok might not actually be the best idea out there. And in contrast, E pluribus unum and I, we're almost on the same end of the political spectrum. And he, of course, argues with a lot of people. And I don't think that this wasn't our first argument. We argued a bit since he was blocked by one of my followers. And so there was conflict previously. I did resolve it easily because I was definitely definitely pretty level-headed. And I was like, okay, you've got to meet people halfway. He seemed like he was arguing with me a lot. I needed to hit the sack after that because I was tired. And so it was pretty troubling between us probably from the start. And there's also, again, and personally, I'll just say this to E pluribus unum. I'm sorry. Sorry this whole thing ended the way it did. I wish I could have explained myself a little better or worded a few things differently and just said it's authoritarian to block any website. Doesn't mean you're an authoritarian. It just means banning websites is an inherently authoritarian way of thinking. Especially since China has like a great firewall where they ban certain websites. And yes, the one I'm streaming to right now, YouTube, is actually one of them, since they have their very own version of YouTube that I think is state run. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but basically they basically have a state capitalist type system, even though they do call themselves communists. Really, they're state capitalists. They're basically like Pinochet's view of government without actually admitting it. So, but anyways, what I'm saying is China bans websites because it has content they don't agree with. And this is almost the same thing US government logic is viewing the whole TikTok ban under. And it just doesn't make us look any better. And that's kind of a transition to it. But anyways, I wish we could have found more of an agreement and we could have come together. But you chose your way. I chose my way. That's how things are, I guess. This is going to be the last time I will be mentioning him. Unless, like, maybe he does a video on me and I'll probably have to respond. I do wonder if I'm not going to accuse him of anything. I don't know what's going, I don't live with him. I don't really know him personally. I don't think he really mentions much about his personal life. I mean, he does mention he's from South Carolina, but he doesn't mention where in South Carolina. And I'm going to respect his wishes. I'm not going to speculate on that, but I do wonder, putting myself into his shoes, what it was like for him. And I do wonder, does he have some mental problems? Honestly, that's hard to say, and I'll just speak to the heart as one who does have problems with his mental health. I've been struggling with depression throughout my entire life. Well, not entirely, but again, I've been struggling quite a lot. And a lot of that is due a lot of the time to myself being terminally online. Most of the time. A lot of that comes from the Power Rangers fan in Wikia, where I was harassed constantly for vandalizing, which, yeah, I was wrong for vandalizing. That was definitely a bad thing on my part. But they made things worse by harassing me, and I told them to keep fucking off of my message wall, but they just kept coming, and I was blocked permanently. I mean, they should have at least been punished in some way. So because of that, I started falling a bit into a depression. And I've also been going through a lot when I was a member of the Go Animate community, and it kind of destroyed my mental health a lot. I'm not going to say Go Animate just automatically destroys mental health. I think those should be isolated incidents. What I'm saying is the people in the Go Animate community really treated me pretty terribly. I had I was part of Wild Animation Network, which is a multi-channel network similar to something like Channel Awesome or previously 7 Awesome Kids or something like that, or Reviewtopia. And I was not treated very well, and they just kept rejecting and rejecting and rejecting. I was like, I just kept arguing, and then I just got kicked out, and that was that. And we've resented each other ever since. I've resented them. They don't want to talk to me. Like, I legitimately wanted to communicate with them, but they just kept cutting me off. So after that, I started falling a bit into a depression, and also was made worse when my maternal grandmother sadly passed away. This is getting a little emotional for me and so I do wonder if he is in a crisis point. If EPU is in a crisis point at this point, obviously I don't think that was behavior that is really acceptable on a Discord. I do wish him well, honestly. I understand he's a human being just like me. And I sincerely hope the best for him in his ventures. Like, if you're still subscribed to him, by all means, stay subscribed to him. If you're a fan of mine, don't harass people who still consider themselves fans of him. I don't think I should have to condemn harassment, but at this point, considering the controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy, I think I really should condemn. I just... I feel that I need to move on. It's honestly a very depressing thing for me to talk about. Also, specifically, I was home alone during that time, so I didn't have parents to really talk to directly. I had to talk with them over the phone. And I've also asked some of my friends on Twitter, just like, should I get a therapist? One of them said, I don't know if I'm the right person to suggest that. And honestly, in my heart, I think I should get a therapist, because this whole thing with YouTube has just been kind of mentally destroying me. Just know I'm not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. I'm not going to end myself or anything like that. And I will mention here just the suicide hotline for anyone who is struggling with suicide. If I can find it. So this is popping up on the screen. If you are struggling with suicidal thoughts, like I've been from time to time, please dial this number. I haven't called it myself, but I don't know if it's a good enough source, but please consider calling this number whenever you can if you're struggling with suicide. And if you feel like you actually do need therapy, please look at your local therapists, look at one that's available, and see if they're a reputable therapist. Or if they're just using people for profits, don't consider them. And also do not consider using BetterHelp, okay? That's just a pretty shady thing, and I think it's funding Israel from what I've heard, so that's another problem. So yeah, don't consider BetterHelp. I'm not paid by anyone. I don't get sponsors, so I'm literally just doing this to help people. So I'm gonna go over, since I've already kind of mentioned why I oppose a TikTok ban. You all know why I oppose a TikTok ban. I mean, do I even need to explain it? It's like, banning TikTok is just counterproductive. It makes us look no better than countries like China, Russia, or North Korea, which regularly ban websites, or at least, I don't know, restrict access to websites. In fact, I think Russia has banned TikTok. Don't quote me on that. I've heard from Russians currently living in the country that TikTok probably has been banned. I can't confirm that's fully true. You're gonna have to look that up for yourself. Also, again, banning websites, and so because of that, again, banning TikTok or websites, social media or not in general, is just wrong. You shouldn't do that. And it's very authoritarian and totalitarian. It will just make us look no better than countries that do that on a regular basis. And I think it would be more worthwhile to place regulations on websites so they don't use data for personal data for personal or political use for their personal or political gain. It's just, I do think TikTok might have done this, but also Facebook's been accused of that as well, and I think it might have been confirmed. Don't quote me on that, but so I'm not saying that TikTok's a perfect social media website. No social media website is. I mean, I'm operating under a YouTube channel that might be supporting under on a social media website that's currently supporting Israel. So that's kind of a downer for me. But I don't really have any other websites to operate on other than Vimeo or Dailymotion. And Vimeo is just, I don't know if it's used that much. And Dailymotion is a very buggy website. So unfortunately, I don't have much of a choice but to use YouTube because that's what most people use. And just because I use YouTube or any social media website that supports Israel doesn't automatically mean I support Israel. Just throwing that out there. And be real with you, fellow leftists, you're in that same boat too. You're not horrible for doing this. You're just kind of out of options with other social media websites. Everyone is. So, also, update on my top 10 worst political ads list, for those who are wondering. It's going to be altered a bit. I think actually that video may be the last time I mention him. I'll just put a disclaimer saying something like, this was written from inspiration from E Pluribus Unum's top 10 best political ads list in a means of our past friendship. Now we're not currently friends anymore because of an incident on Discord. I'm making this video as a good luck package to him. Hope that his future ventures are successful. And I hope that he has the same wishes for me as well. Something like that. But I will make his additions less visible because I want to now just make my list more of my list. Just note that most of my entries have been finalized. My number one pick's not going to change. It's a pretty obvious one. I think you've already seen it. I'm not going to say what the name is, but for those of you who don't know, we'll keep the mystery alive, but it's probably what you think it is. So let's just throw it out there. Not going to say which country it's from. I'm not going to say which election. I'll just say that it catastrophically destroyed a campaign far more than any other political ad would at all. Whether a successful one like LBJ's Daisy Girl ad or any of those other terrible ads on the list, that one caused the most damage. So that's just the only hint I'm going to give you. So that's my update on the list. Now I'm going to talk to you about what else I've been doing. So still on the campaign trail. It's going okay. I actually went to a candidates forum on Thursday, and it was actually pretty packed for a room that's not really that big. It was hosted by one of the neighborhood associations. I'm not going to fully discuss which one it was. It is one of the bigger ones. I'll just hint at that. No, it's not my own neighborhood association since it's not active. Again, won't go further into that. And saying that, it was pretty fun. Also, because there were so many candidates, we had to rotate every table. They tried to set up how to rotate, and honestly, for me, it was just kind of random what table I went to. I just went to a table that was available and answered questions. And I also gave introductions to people. I think starting next week, I'm going to start working on my campaign memorabilia, specifically postcards. It's probably just going to be simple flyers that I'm going to hand out. Probably a few postcards as well, but even then, it's like, this campaign is, I don't think it's a very long campaign, so I don't think I have time to do yard signs. I haven't done the whole yard sign thing because I think doing that would be expensive. I'll do so once I run for probably a higher office, like maybe if I run for city council again, or maybe state representative or something. It's kind of up in the air whether or not I'll win or not. But yeah, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Next is some other things that I've been up to. So I've been writing a new book. This time sort of an original concept, actually. So Wayne, that comes from my middle name as well as Wayne Gretzky. And Lindstrom comes from my namesake, Nicholas Lindstrom. So, yeah. That, if you're wondering who I was named after, yeah. The Knights, it's book 1, Knights of Unity and Balance. So, I've finished chapter 1, which takes up about 6.5 pages. I don't know. So, I got this concept after watching one of Razorblade's reviews. It was specifically on the movie Bright, where that movie, if you don't know, has the concept of where in modern day, humans and magical creatures actually interact. And it was handled pretty poorly. And so I'll show you what's in my book for those who are watching, which is now currently 0. Not that many people watch my live streams that much. So here it is. So you can read here. Can you imagine a world where magic and science coexist? Well, that's the world I live in. My name is Wayne Lidstrom. I am 18 years old and a senior in high school. My father is a human and my mother is an elf, which marrying between the two magical races is very rare. Between magical races is very rare. When it does happen, it's usually frowned upon. Because of that, I'm considered an outcast in school. Nobody really wants to sit with me at breakfast or lunch, save for my best friend Hassan, whose mother immigrated from Somalia. I think it's actually immigrated, I don't know. Emigrated from Somalia, and it's actually Somalia, and his father is an orc, which are generally considered dark creatures, since most of them supported the Dark Lord long ago. So that's a bit of lore. So, and many wished for his return, as well as his brother Selena, who is half vampire and a bit of a loner. No, sunlight doesn't kill her. At least I don't think it does. But it does wink at her and give her an awful sunburn, which is why she always has to put on sunscreen and hold an umbrella when outside, regardless of whether or not it's raining. Most of her species also fought for the Dark Lord long ago, which makes her the subject of prejudice again as well. Because of that, we tend to keep ours to ourselves whenever possible, as to not get any attention from the popular kids, especially Rebecca, who is your stereotypical valley girl and the captain of the swimming team. She hates anything out of the ordinary, which is awkward for her since half of our school, Everett High School in Lansing, Michigan, which by the way is real, is part of what's called a new magic school, a section of school reserved for magical creatures, save for centaurs and merfolk, since they're either too big or can't walk on land. Since Hassan, Selena, and I are all half magical creatures, our schedule involves being in both the human school and the magic school as well, which makes us the target of bullying from both sides of the school, and just keeps going on no matter how hard the staff tries to put it into it. We didn't think we'd be gifted in anything, but we'd be proven wrong one day. And that was when the swimming team was going to have their race at the Southside Community Center on Wise Road. And our moms made us all go because Hassan had a sister who was on the swimming team. And want Hassan or his friends like me and Selena to miss them. We all hated the water because when I was only 3 years old, I went in and I was nearly shocked to death. And Hassan was almost drowned by his little sister as a prank. Hassan was almost drowned by his little sister as a prank. And Selena didn't want her makeup to be splashed off. Luckily, we'd be sitting as far away from it as possible as a spectator in the spectator seats so we wouldn't get wet. But that was the least of our worries. Our worst rival in the school, Rebecca Thompson, as mentioned before, was the captain of the swimming team. All revolving around, and she'd make and we knew that she was bad news, and she'd make up any excuse to get us all into trouble. All revolving around our half-mage status. Usually it failed, but she was still a massive nuisance to us. Not even the swimming coach was able to put a stop to her antics. And so, we need to keep as much of our distance away from her as possible, just to make sure she wouldn't go anywhere near us. But she normally didn't get the memo, and would constantly get to our space, even if we didn't ask for it. Soon we made it to our lockers, and began to discuss other plans we had after the swimming races were over. I'm just going to hang out in my house, I said. What about you, Hassan? Same, he said. My sister will be very tired after swimming for about an hour or two. Just hope we can keep her calm tomorrow. I might drop by your house, said Selena. I don't have much to do beyond that. Then trouble came. Rebecca and her gang of misfits came right by and opened up the lockers. I knew if we had to share the same hallway as them, then there would be trouble. Rebecca took one looked at Selena and seemed very disgusted to see her. Ew, Rebecca said angrily. Get this weird little emo girl away from my perfect princess self at once. First off, reported Selena, I'm not an emo. I only dress this way because I'm half vampire and can't stand sunlight. Second, don't you have a race to practice for, Rebecca, or are you just going to stand by your lockers gossiping? She said. You're wasting everyone's time here. Nobody asked for your opinion, she said. You filthy little smog blood. This infuriated not just Selena, but also Hassan and me too. Since we were also half magical creatures in our DNA, and we found the S slur very offensive. As Hassan seemed to be the most angered by it. You've really crossed the line this time for calling my girl a slur, Rebecca, retorted Hassan. This should be the last straw for you. Last straw for who? Someone said, walking in. We looked and it was the swimming coach. And he did not look the least bit happy. He seemed to hear what everyone said. Rebecca's smile turned upside down, and she seemed to be frightened, knowing she did indeed cross the line this time. But, Coach Wilson, Rebecca said nervously, it's not my fault. Emo girl made me say it. No buts, Coach Wilson said angrily. I cannot have the captain of our team say such disgusting words to 3 half-breeds. You are officially being demoted for your lack of social awareness. But, Coach, she said, I promise I'll be good. Then you should live up to that promise, he said. Now, get your bags and get to the bus zone now. You're lucky I'm giving you a second chance. But, if you blow it, you'll be off the team and in detention next Saturday. Rebecca looked at everyone, who didn't seem happy with her in the moment, and so she put her head down, got her stuff out, and sadly went into the bus zone, feeling her most humiliated yet. I didn't care. I, for one, didn't care about her sorrow one bit. And neither did anyone else. The worst thing you can do is call someone a slur and not apologize for it. Hassan tried to comfort Selena because of what happened. And I just stood there angrily. As I knew the terrible meaning behind the word. How it was just used to... Elvin, how do you spell that? Okay, Elvin, yeah. And slaves, whenever they didn't properly serve their masters, and when they were beaten to near death over it. The experience most African slaves also went through at the hands of their white masters. That evening, my parents, Elmer and Dorothy Lidstrom, the former of whom I'm often mistaken for, especially in old pictures of him taken when he was my age, with his sunny blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, and light skin, both took me to the swimming race. The parking lot at the Alfred Schmidt Southside Community Center was just south of the building. Was packed. Mostly with families who went to watch their teenage children compete in this meet in the races. The building was like a maze. Lucky for Hassan, who just caught up with us, he mostly knew his way through. The swimming room was not that big, and so some families had to sit in the gym for extra space while watching it on a projector screen hooked up to a computer while the lights were all off. The pool was about 5 feet deep at the shallowest end, and the deep end was about 6 feet, which is where the swimmers would dive in. Hassan told me it was because it was to make it easier for the swimmers to dive in head first without hitting their heads at the pool's floor. We were lucky to sit mostly up front, or maybe not, since again, I was mostly afraid of water splashing me due to the aforementioned incident at the pool at another school when I was 3 that I won't mention again. Soon, all the teams got into position, and I saw that Sasha got promoted to team captain of the Everett team after that incident in the hallway, since she proved to be a strong swimmer and a good team player, but I didn't see the former team captain, Rebecca, anywhere. I asked Hassan what was going on with her. My sister told me that she is crying in the girls' locker room, he said. I guess she couldn't take being demoted very well. I'd say good riddance, added Selena. She was a nuisance from the start, not to mention calling us that offensive slur. My dad's kind already gets a bad rep for what a certain vampire from Romania did back in the 19th century. Not to mention, I added, the fact that the word she used was used to belittle elven slaves, that some British authors like to claim we all enjoyed, but we really didn't. Okay, you Rowling. As someone who is a black guy myself, Hassan added, where many of my friends' families also receive the same treatment, I find books like that very offensive. We didn't talk any further on the subject of Rebecca, and we'd hope she'd eventually stop crying and learn to be put right in her place. But she never came out. But she never came out of the locker room, as the teams were all across the school district, as well as some other adjacent districts. I'm not going to go into that full detail because that's going to bore you. None of the schools had mythological creatures as mascot, which is sort of a personal choice, but Hassan told us that some of the members were actually half merfolk, which wasn't that surprising, since those who are half merfolk are some of the best swimmers out there, almost Olympic level. Soon, the announcer spoke on his megaphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, welcome to the girls' swimming race, where 6 schools in the greater Lansing area are competing to win. The crowd cheered and roared, and so did the teams. The cheering was not as big as that of a hockey arena, since it wasn't exactly that size, but it was still a big one. Racers, please stand on your diving boards! And the racers did, with all of them being the team captains. Sasha stood on her diving board, which is the one closest to us, so we could see her action most closely. Soon, he blew his whistle. Whistle blow. What was that sound? Sasha stood. The rest of the and the captains all dove into the pool, and the race began. Sasha was among the fastest in the pool. along with Sexton Captain Julia and Waverly Captain Gloria. "Come on, sis," Hassan shouted. "You've got this!" The rest of the crowd was cheering for their team as well, with each motivation pushing each captain to swim faster and faster. When they reached the end, they switched directions and swam back to the deep end of the pool where their teammate was waiting. Some used the wall as a boost, but Sasha didn't seem to need it, since she was building her lead and came in first as she reached the deep end and got out. Soon, her teammate Jody went in, and just after that, Julia came in second, and her teammate Janice came in. Then Gloria came, and her teammate Carly went in. It was a long but fun event. It lasted for 1 hour, and thanks to Sasha's strong performance, Everett won decisively in the girls' race. But the feel of victory for us was almost short-lived when someone frantically ran into the swimming room with terror on his face. Everyone in the room, swimmers, cheerleaders, coaches, and spectators, stared as he frantically shouted into the crowd. "Two trolls in the hallways!" he shouted. People looked at him silently. Trolls were extremely stupid. How would it have gotten here? "Thought you would have known by now," the frightened man said as he fainted. Ugh. There was a gigantic uproar this time not of joy, cheer, or even laughter, but terror and anger. The announcer, steadfast as ever, lifted his microphone and shouted right into it. "Silence!" he shouted. "Would everyone please stop panicking?" This made everyone stand still at once, but then stopped everyone from shivering at two giant trolls populating the hallways. "Coaches," the announcer said, "evacuate your teams outside at once. The same goes for you, spectators. We are on a troll delay. City workers will tend to this man and follow me through the hallways to hunt for those trolls." "Follow me, every team," shouted Coach Wilson. "And please stay alert in case one of those trolls even shows up anywhere near us." The other coaches also echoed those statements. People were either nervous, terrified, or angry. How could someone let two giant, reckless creatures into a public building? No one could even believe what was going on. Hassan and Selena were two of those who were enraged. They seemed like they wanted to throttle someone for letting two giant creatures in. I wasn't too happy either for the same reason. But then, once we passed startled Waverly students, I realized something, and I grabbed Hassan's arm. "I just remembered," I said suddenly. "Rebecca!" What about her?" Hassan asked angrily. "She doesn't know about the two trolls in this facility." Hassan and Selena exchanged looks. Both seemed to be reluctant to help her, either out of genuine fear of what the trolls would do to us if we got caught, or because of the incident earlier that got her demoted. "Fine," Hassan said angrily, "but our parents better not see this." "Or worse," Selena replied. "The trolls shouldn't catch us or we'll be toast." We ducked down and hid through the crowd, and we had to find our way towards the locker rooms, which we hoped that Rebecca would at least be somewhat safe, since the doors were locked due to the building being under attack. We heard ear-piercing screams from the other side of the building. Many of them seemed to be city workers who were unfortunate enough to encounter one of the trolls. We had hoped their sacrifices were worth it. The building, as mentioned before, was like a maze, and it took us 20 minutes before we reached the locker rooms. Suddenly, we heard giant footsteps, which meant danger. We hid behind another door before the locker rooms, knowing that if the trolls saw us, we were doomed. And sure enough, there it was, one of the gigantic trolls, almost 15 feet tall, gray skin, tree-thick legs, and holding a giant wooden club, which trolls generally used as weapons. Suddenly, he took his club and struck it at the door to the girls' locker room. "Rebecca," I whispered, "the troll's after her." After the incident earlier today, it was the last thing either of us wanted to do. But what choice did we have? After the trolls stuck the door open, similar to a Stephen King novel, The Shining, we sprinted right towards the locker room and ran inside. Rebecca stringed across the wall with her way up, but not the confident face she showed earlier. She showed a streak of absolute terror. The troll advanced on her, knocking off each of the lockers as it came closer to her. "What do we do?" Hassan asked frantically. I had no idea. I didn't think I had any magic powers. Only a select few of them, known as the Knights of Unity and Balance, were once thought up as legendary warriors back in medieval times, but today they are seen as mumbling. We didn't think we had those kinds of powers, but then suddenly I realized something. I nearly got electrocuted in the pool. Blah, blah, blah. I think I'm done reading here. Yeah. So, that's pretty much it. It's probably my shortest live stream to date. Almost nobody else came, unfortunately. I invited others, but no one really came. It's just, life's been pretty ahead of me, and so I hope you, whoever that one person is watching this, enjoys it. Enjoyed it. It was certainly probably the most boring live stream in a while, but honestly, I've got a lot of other things to do. Probably go to another candidate's forum or something, but I'm gonna head off, probably take a nap or eat dinner or something, I don't know. But I hope you had a good time, or at least had a good time seeing me almost miserable throughout the stream. So that's all I'm going to say about the E Pluribus Unum situation for right now. And I'll just put him in the vault after this, because I just don't want to talk about him anymore. And I hope that he respects my wishes to leave me alone, as well as me leaving him alone. So that's all. This is Nick Lazzani, signing off.